Hello everyone and welcome to my series called That's Animate. In this series, I'll do short animations of various things and show you the step-by-step process of how I make them. First off, a bit of a disclaimer. I'm not by any means someone that's on a pro level, like an animator who's got decades worth of portfolio. I'm just a hobbyist animator with a little bit of industry experience. So the things that I'll show you are mostly beginner stuff and are based on the things that I learned after years of doing my personal animations, and also from the things that I learned and understood after a year of working as a digital animator. So, without further ado, let's begin. In this short animation project, I'll be animating a simple jump animation, and in this episode, I'll be doing the primary movements and key drawings first of our jump animation. So, let's begin by creating a new animation file. Now, I'm using Clip Studio Paint by the way, but don't worry, I won't go too technical on this. I'll focus more on sharing my understandings in animation so you can still follow along even if you're using a different software. Now, the size of our scene is 1920 by 1080 pixels, but you can also try it at different sizes like 1280 by 720 pixels or 854 by 480 pixels. But for this scene, for this project, we'll be using the 1920 by 1080 pixel size. Now, I'll just leave the resolution at 72 dpi and we'll be running our animation at 24 frames per second. Now, 24 frames per second is the standard frame rate for animation, so we'll stick to that for now. Oh, let's name this animation project. Let's name it Jump Animation. Now let's create the file. Now, what I'll do is just a simple jump animation. A character jumps, then lands. Now, before we start drawing, let's talk about animation processes first. We have two kinds of animation process. One is straight ahead animation, and the other is the pose-to-pose animation. In straight ahead animation, we draw the entire animation frame by frame from start to finish. In pose-to-pose animation, however, we draw the key drawings first, then do the timing, then add in the in-betweens. For a short animation, we'll be using the pose-to-pose animation process because it is the standard animation process used in hand-drawn animations, as well in flash animations and 3D animations. Now, let's draw our character first. Let's make this simple and let's just draw a stick drawing here. There we go. Now let's make him standing up a bit straighter, like that. Now, our main objective here at the start is to get the pose and position of our character right. So we need to keep our drawing simple and easy to draw. We really don't need a detailed character. We really don't need a detailed character here yet, so stick drawing would be enough. Now, since we're doing a pose-to-pose animation, we need to start drawing some poses for our character. These poses that we need are called key drawings or key poses. Key drawings are the start and end of an action. Key drawings also depict the most readable parts of the action. A good example that I can think of is that key drawings are like dance steps. Each step has a different pose that needs to be performed in order to complete the dance. Now, the most common question in animating is, how do we know which ones are the key drawings? For that, I have two methods that I use to define my key drawings. The first method is defining the three main parts of an action: the anticipation, the take, and the rest. The anticipation, or also called the antic, is the preparation for the main action, and the take is the main action, and the rest is the end of the action. These three are the core poses that define an action. Now, let's get back to our stick drawing here, and let's draw the antic of the jump, the take, and the rest. Now, let's add a new keyframe here. Let's turn on the onion skin, and this would be the antic. So for the antic, this is the preparation for the jump. So we'll draw our stick figure crouching like this. Oops. Like that. Make sure that the feet are aligned and this gathering force. So his arms would be here at the back. Now this is the antic. Now that's another keyframe here, and let's draw the take. This is the main action, so this is the jump. So we'll draw our stick drawing jumping, and not just jumping, this is at the peak of the jump. Up. Let's these legs like that, bit like that. Now that's the take, that's the jump. Now let's add another keyframe here, and let's draw the rest. This is the end of the action. This is the end of the jump. So we'll draw our stick drawing here at the ground, crouching slightly a bit, similar to the antic, but a bit more relaxed because he already finished the jump. Now let's let's move him a bit lower, resize him a bit. There we go. Or we can really just use the guideline here. Yeah, align him a bit. There we go. Now, we've drawn the main poses of our animation, but if you look at this at the timeline, let's turn off the onion skin for a bit. If you take a look at this, the timeline, this looks very snappy. He jumps, yes, but it's really snappy. Our stick drawing just teleports to the air, then teleports back to the ground. Now, to fix this, we need to add more key drawings. Now, how do we do that? How do we add more key drawings? What should we draw? Now, for that one, to do that, I'm going to use my second method. What I do is I use verbs. In grammar, we have past tense, present tense, and future tense verbs. Every action goes through these three verbs, and I use these three to define my key drawings and in-betweens. I do that using this pattern, the future, present, past pattern, where the past tense and future tense verbs represents the key drawings because these verbs imply that the character is already in the pose. And present tense verbs, particularly verbs ending in ing, represents the in-betweens because these verbs imply that the character is still in the middle of posing. That's with the exception of the starting pose. Only the starting pose is the key drawing that's in the present tense. Now, let me show you how I use this pattern to draw my key drawings. Now, the first thing that I do is that I label these three core poses using past tense verbs. Here in the antic, our stick drawing is crouching down, but we really need the past tense of it. So we'll label this one crouched. It's the past tense. Let's do the same with the take. This should also be the past tense. So this is the jump. The past tense of jump is jumped. Let's do the same with the rest. This should also be the past tense. And since he already landed, we'll use landed. Now we have the past tenses done. What we need to do next is define the future tense version of these past tense verbs. Now, what we need to do is add another keyframe here at the start. This is in between the starting pose and the antic, and this should be the future tense. So what is the future tense of crouched? So we'll just label it about to crouch. With this verb, it will now be easier for us to draw the pose because we already have something that says what the pose should look like. So let's just, based on the starting pose and the crouching position, we'll draw about to crouch. Now we'll draw a stick figure here, slightly leaning downward. His arms are slowly going back, and there's about to crash. Yep, there we go. Now let's do the same with jump. Let's add another keyframe before it, and this should be the future tense of jump. So this would be about to jump. Now this should be the future tense of this one. So for about to jump, let's draw our stick drawing like here, and his arms are going that way. So he's still grounded, but his upper body's already moving up. Now for the landed, we'll do the same. Add a new keyframe here. This will be the future tense of this one. And since our past tense is landed, our future tense should be about to land. Now we'll draw our stick drawing slightly bit here, and his legs are already stretching out because he's about to land. He's falling. His arms a bit up like that, and there we go. Let's turn off the onion skin again, and let's check this in the timeline. Yeah, looks good. Looks more like a jumping character now instead of a teleporting one earlier. Also, if you notice, I didn't include the present tense verbs here because again, it represents in-betweens, and in this episode, I wanted to focus more on the key drawings first, and in-betweens are a different topic of its own, so we'll have to discuss it in a later episode. Now, are we done with the key drawings? Are we going to detail the character now? Nope, not yet. We're not done with key drawings yet. There's one last thing that we need to polish in the key drawings, and that's the last part of the animation. And it's this one, the rest key drawings. If we take a look at these key drawings, it might look decent, but it feels like there's no weight or impact when the character lands. After jumping, he just stops, and that doesn't look natural at all. It is supposed to have a subtle bounce in it. So what we need to do is apply an overshoot and settle action. Overshoot is where the action moves past its intended end position, then settles back into place. Settle is where the action slowly moves into its end pose without any extra movements. What we currently have in our key drawings is just settle because our character landed, then just goes straight to the end pose. That's why it doesn't look natural at all. So we'll add an overshoot to his end pose. And adding an overshoot pose means that we'll have to add a new key drawing or drawings between about to land and landed. So we have the future, present, past pattern here, but for us to add the overshoot, we need to divide this one into a new segment of future, present, past, and the future, present, past. Now this future tense would be our overshoot. So we'll need to draw another drawing here and another drawing for our overshoot. So let's do that. Let me undo this first. Oops, too much. Yeah, there we go. First I need to do is move this end pose 2 frames ahead to make room for the additional key drawings. Now let's add a new keyframe. Let's complete the pattern for about to land first. Let's add a new past tense for about to land. We'll just use the same verb, landed. So what we need to do is draw or stick drawing like that. His feet on the ground because he already landed. His feet should be grounded. His legs a bit like that. Arms straight up. And all we need to do is grab this one, move him down here, and there we go. The new past tense. Now, what about this landed? Let's remove this one because we already used it. So let's just rename this as finished the jump. And there we go. Now, for the future tense that we need to add, let's just add a new keyframe here, and this is the overshoot. Let's just name this overshoot for simplicity. And overshoot again means that the character moves past its intended end pose. Our end pose is this. So the direction of our character is going down, so for it to be past its end pose, it should be a bit lower. So we'll draw our stick drawing a bit lower like that. Make sure that the feet are aligned, arms here at the back like that. Let's remove this arrow. Let's delete this, and there we go. Now let's turn off the onion skin and let's check this in the timeline. And there you go. See? By adding the overshoot drawings, we made the landing a bit more natural looking. See? Yeah, there's the solid bounce. Yep. That looks good. And that's it. We added the overshoot key drawing and made this landing a bit more natural looking. Yep, and now we're done with the key drawings. Finally. But before we draw a detailed drawing, let's label our key drawings first to keep things organized. Now we're done labeling our key drawings in the canvas, but we also need to label our key drawings accordingly here in the timeline. Now to do that, all we need to do is go to Animation, Edit Track, and click this Rename in Layer Order. If we click that, it automatically renames all our key drawings accordingly. And not just here in the timeline, but also here in the layers. Now we're done with the key drawings. Well, to be more precise, this is just a reference for the detailed key drawings that we'll do later. Because these stick drawings are just a guide to where the character will be and what its poses would initially look like. Now, let's proceed with the timing. Timing refers to the duration of an action and the number of drawings that it would take to complete it. So, let's spread out these drawings in the timeline and figure out the best timing for each movement. Now, from the starting pose to crouch, I think I'll be needing half a second. We'll be running this on 24 frames per second, and 12 frames is half of it. Oh, by the way, I'll be animating this on 2s, so it means that my drawings should be on odd numbered frames. So, this should be either in frame 11 or frame 13. But let's just settle in frame 13. Now, for our 8-2, this is the about to crouch. Let's just put this at frame 5 with one in between here at frame 3. I think that would be good. And then for frame 4, keyframe 4, I mean A4, the about to jump. This is supposed to be part of the jump sequence, so this should be quick. So I think I'll put this at frame 19. with two key drawings here at frame 15 and frame 17. Now for our take, the jump, again this one should be quick, and I think two in-betweens would suffice. So I'll be putting this at, let's put this at frame 25, with, with two in-betweens here as frame 21 and frame 23. Now for about to land, I think one in-between should suffice, so I'll put this at frame 29. A7, the landed pose, I think it should also have one drawing in between, so I'll put this at frame 33. For A8, the overshoot, let's put one drawing in between as well. But for this one, the A9, the end pose, I think we'll go with a slow settle, so two drawings in between would be good, so we'll put this at frame 33. Two in betweens here at frame 39 and 41. Yep, that looks fine by me. Now, let's look at this in the timeline. Well, that looks good. But that's it. That's the timing part. Basically, we've already completed the primary movement of the jump animation with only using a stick drawing. We can now draw the character properly and put some detail. I'm going to create a new animation folder, and I'm setting the opacity of our previous animation folder to like 50%. Then, I'm going to add a new keyframe and draw a character model. I'm just going to fast forward this one. I'm just drawing a simple character model here. I'm just doing this so we can have a better reference when we draw a detailed character later on. In here, we can still edit and fix the pose and proportions of our character before we detail it. If you're already confident in your drawing skills, you can go ahead and draw a detailed character right away. But for now, I'll draw a character model first, then I'll add more details later. You really don't have to do this every time, because as you gain experience in animating, you'll skip some of these basics because you already know what to do and how to do it faster. Now that I'm done drawing this rough character model, I can now draw a detailed character. For this, I'll just use my channel mascot, Akari. I'll just draw her over this character model. Again, I'll just fast forward this one, and I'll get back to you guys in a few minutes. And that's it. We have now finished animating the primary movement of our jump animation from stick drawing to a fairly detailed one. In the next video, I'll do the in-betweens and secondary movements, and I will also share my insights on the timing chart as well as animating on 2s and 3s. I originally wanted to include the in-betweens and secondary movements here in this video, but those actually are a different topic of their own, as I said earlier, and I thought that having one episode focus on a certain aspect of animation would be better. So for this episode, I decided to focus on the primary movements and key drawings first, because most aspiring animators and beginners are having a hard time figuring out how to draw and what to draw on key drawings. They're familiar with the term, but most of the time they're having a tough time thinking on what to draw, so I thought I'll share my insights and the method that I use to draw them, and maybe they can pick something out of it. And that's it for this episode. I hope this has been helpful, even for a little bit. Again, next video is all about in-between secondary movement and animating in 2s and 3s, so stay tuned. And if you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also check my Patreon page. If you want to help me make web animation as my main profession, you can go there and drop some support. And that's about it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.